Is this the best video game TV adaptation ever? And did HBO Max take a huge risk with creating this version of the story? And did I play the actual video game? Yes and no. Let's go. The Last of Us is a new drama series based on one of the best video games of all time from back on the PlayStation 3 back in 2013. So now here we are 10 years later. And oh yeah, this review will be spoiler free, so no worries. This TV adaptation follows our two main characters, very similar to the story of the video game, with that being Joel Miller and Ellie Williams as they survive a post-apocalyptic world. This occurred from a global pandemic of a virus related to fungus that destroyed civilization once the outbreak started. Joel has become a smuggler and is now tasked with escorting Ellie, who is a stubborn, resilient teenager, across the United States. He has no idea why she's so important, plus they're both complete opposites who hardly get along since Joel's not trying to get personal with her. His reasons for this are very emotional, which is why he keeps to himself, but once he finds out what's so special about Ellie, his mindset and actions then start to shift. The story also gets somewhat political since people are trying to establish a new world order, so on one hand you have the government, or whatever remains of it, who are very controlling, but then you have the people who want more freedom for themselves, and this resistance group is known as the Fireflies. I forgot to mention that this new world that they live in is contaminated with these zombie-like creatures known as clickers. If people get bit by a clicker, then the pathogen would take over their mind and body, which gives them extra strength and speed, but also loss of consciousness. What's interesting about this concept of fungus is that it actually exists in nature today, but primarily affects small insects such as ants and spiders, but this is not likely to evolve to cause infection in humans in the near future. So first off, just knowing something like this could actually happen to our human species is definitely scary, because the writing of the show is definitely legit and accurate, especially the opening scene, which shows us an interview from the 1960s that does foreshadow a possible outbreak of the virus caused by fungus. The story reveals the virus first breaking out in 2003, and then fast forward to see how the world adapts in current day of 2023. I won't be doing my top 10 favorite character lists as I do in some of my other reviews, because in this show they heavily focus on the two main characters of Joel and Ellie. This first season is one of those shows where obviously they have great characters, however most of these characters are only in one episode, whether if it's just a flashback or it's just that's their time in the show that serves a purpose for the story to just move forward. Now, as I mentioned earlier, and for all of my videos, this review will also be spoiler free. However, for this review, I did want to talk more about certain episodes, just for those that have watched, you could understand and relate to what I'm talking about, and for those that haven't watched, then you'll know what to expect and something to look forward to. Now, the first episode has great pacing, showing the importance of the main character and his significant relationships at that time. I do think this was a good introductory to the protagonist and his upcoming journey. The first episode also shows the outbreak and all the chaos, and from what I can remember, this is the only part of the game that I played, and then I just never got back to it. And the second episode had a really good museum sequence that felt so real to the point where I need to stop playing and play the damn game entirely. But the third episode may leave you in tears, because it's one of those standalone episodes that I mentioned prior, with how our main character goes to visit someone, and as an audience, we have no idea who these people are until the very end, and it's just great screenwriting. And quick shout out to episode 5 when the main characters meet up with these two kids in Kansas City. This episode was a complete shocker for me, and episodes like this is what keeps the audience on their toes. And another shout out to episode 7 with this mall sequence they had. This was another beautifully shot episode where it's almost like we could take a breather and enjoy the beauty of the scene. However, at any moment, you know something could pop off. There is one episode towards the end of the season where it's not the typical hero story. It's where someone has to overcome the odds on their own and not expect anyone to show up to save the day. And the last episode, apparently they have an actor from the video game play a character, which is very symbolic between the game and the show, which I thought was very nice. Now, from what I saw online and the reviews I've watched, most fans who actually play the entire game would say this is the best video game to TV adaptation ever. Main reason being of how similar they kept the story to the overall source material from the game. Now, for someone like me that only knows the general plot of the story, such as it's a zombie apocalypse, I was so surprised to see the level of detail and high quality that they put into this show for the production and the acting. The cinematography and sound design is definitely top tier when it comes to this series, whether if they were out in nature or in the snow, and I mean like really in the snow. There ain't no green screen at this show. But then you have more of the intimate moments where the suspense kicks in, such as if they're walking and they step on something and it's dead quiet, and those clickers here at the zombies I was telling you about, once they hear the slightest pin drop or you step on something or crack something, those clickers are after you in a second. Some episodes do such a great job at screenwriting and pacing to build that undertone of suspense to make you forget that you're watching a show about a zombie apocalypse, but then out of nowhere, when you least expect it, they're gonna hit you with the feels. and you know what's coming, but there's nothing you can do about it. And I'm talking some serious sad emotions are portrayed in the show, so the drama is definitely there. But believe it or not, although it's about a zombie apocalypse, it's really not that scary in my opinion. And y'all know I'm punks when it comes to the horror and the thriller, but with this show, the reason why is because those clickers I was telling you about, there's not many in the series overall. So yeah, these clickers aren't in many scenes. However, when they make their screen appearance, they're there for a purpose, so it definitely leaves an impact, which I didn't mind. Now, before we wrap up this review, I want to give a few last major shout outs to Neil Druckmann, Bella Ramsey, and Pedro Pascal. Not sure if you guys knew this, but Neil Druckmann was the creative director of The Last of Us video game, plus he was one of the creators, writers, and executive producers, along with he directed an episode of this new series. He's now the co-president of one of the largest and most popular video game developers known as Naughty Dog, who created the classic game franchises of Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, Uncharted, and The Last of Us, which now has a sequel to the game. Bella Ramsey, as many of you might recognize from the Game of Thrones series, does a really good job at depicting a 14-year-old with her countless jokes, questions, and cursing. Her character is courageous and inquisitive, as she's always wandering off by herself despite this being a world filled with zombies. She also definitely has a few very surprising moments playing as Ellie, which has much character arc for us to follow along. And on a side note, I had such a fun time watching the scenes with her interacting with certain technology for the first time, as if it was so ancient, whether it was an arcade, a merry-go-round, or even an escalator. I know some fans had a casting issue with her at first, such as her not completely resembling the character from the game, but I think by the end of the series, mostly everyone fell in love with her, including myself, and I thought overall she did a great job. Now to our main guy, the guy who's been killing it in Hollywood recently, Pedro Pascal. He's done such an amazing job on this show with his character Joel. And let's just keep it real, he does have major experience babysitting Grogu on The Mandalorian, so he's definitely fit for this job to watch over a teenager. He just brings so much pain to his character, yet hope of love that one day there might be a chance to where things could go back to normal for him and his loved ones. There's moments in this series where his character has to make so many tough decisions that can alter the situations up until the very last episode. But overall, I think the casting of these two main characters was perfect since they brought so much genuine chemistry to the screen. And that's why I love HBO Max, because they're not afraid to take writing and visual risks to depict unfortunate real-life situations while maintaining great production quality. Because of this, The Last of Us series now saw viewership growth every week from episode to episode, with the first reaching 4.7 million and the last episode reaching 8.2 million viewers. Now I'll be honest, I'm upset with myself how I never finished this game sooner, but after watching the story unfold about trust in an apocalyptic world with constant heart-pounding suspense built up through each episode, I just look forward to definitely completing the game. I highly recommend anyone who wants to watch a realistic horror vs. humanity story with moments of beauty in a world of chaos to check this out ASAP.
That's why men like you and me are here. We have a job to do, and God help any motherfuckers who stand in our way.
Finish him!
So for those of you that have watched and either played or have not played the game, what did you think about this new series? Did you think overall that this show was great, such as myself? Let me know down in the comments if you haven't watched but plan on checking this out, because I do believe that this will definitely be the next popular big series on streaming services. And if you enjoyed this video, consider liking it, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. This way you can stay up to date with more fun reviews uploaded weekly. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all on the next one. Peace.